Market Prospects, delivering timely information and education to prairie farmers for over 30 years. Market Prospects is brought to you by the University of Saskatchewan's Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics and these sponsors. Log on to marketprospects.usask.ca to view past programs and for information on upcoming programs.
In our Market Prospects interview for this week, we turn our attention to agricultural land values. Joining us from Quebec City is Dr. J.P. Gervais, Vice President and Chief Agricultural Economist with Farm Credit Canada. Dr. Gervais, it's a pleasure to have you on Farmgate.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, recently FCC released its 2016 Farmland Values Report. Compared to previous years, what's been happening with farmland values across Canada and specifically across the prairies?
Well, the national average increase in 2016 has been recorded 7.9%. That's across the country, coast to coast. In the prairies, I would say that we have a fairly consistent story as well with the national average. If you look at Saskatchewan, on average, farmland values have gone up about 7.5% in 2016. In Manitoba, 8.1%. In Alberta, we had or recorded an average increase of 9.5%. So I think it's fairly consistent in the prairies with what we're seeing on a national level. Now, one of the things that I believe is really important to note is that it's the third successive year in which we record a slowing down of the rate of increase in farmland values in Saskatchewan. For some of the provinces, it's 4 consecutive years as well. So definitely, I think there's a slowdown in the farmland values are cooling off or cooling down, which is, I believe, consistent with the overall farm economy.
What key factors have been affecting prairie farmland prices over the last year, and how might such factors impact land prices going forward?
Well, I believe that when you look at farmland values, there's one consistent driver across the country, and that's crop receipts. So on a national level, 2016, we expect when we have the final set of numbers that crop receipts will be up 2% in 2016 over the 2015 level. Now, in Saskatchewan, we have a bit of a different story because of some of the production challenges that we've had, acres that were not harvested in 2016, as well as some of the quality issues. So on average, we believe that crop receipts will be down about 4 or 5% in 2016 off the record year that we had in 2015. Now, how is this consistent with the rate of growth in 2016 that we just quoted at 7.5% for Saskatchewan? I do believe that it's based on the expectation of a very strong year going into 2016. So if you recall at the beginning of 2016, there was a lot of optimism with regards to post crops, a lot really high lentil prices, and then we ended up having some of the challenges that I was mentioning. Really, I believe that it's a story about strong crop receipts or expectations thereof of strong crop receipts. As well as one of the things that I'm really excited about this year is the fact that we are able to report not only a provincial average increase, but as well as an average increase on a regional basis. So if you think of Saskatchewan, we're able to actually break down the province in 6 different regions. And for example, out east, in East Central, we had or recorded an average increase right around 0. So we roughly had fairly flat farmland values in 2016, a bit more of a significant increase in the western side of the province. So there's a lot of regional factors as well that matter when you look at farmland values. But overall, I think it's crop receipts that are driving farmland values.
So who is buying prairie farmland, and is there a clear relationship between the prices paid for farmland and the productive value of that land for agricultural use?
Well, I would say that producers are still buying most or their large share of farmland. Now, of course, in some specific areas where you could have non-traditional buyers of farmland, such as investment funds, that do come in, and in that case, that raises the demand for farmland and does have an impact or a positive impact on the price in that particular area. By and large, it's still producers that are buying farmland. Now, going into 2016, if you think of 2015, Saskatchewan was the province that was the most closely aligned, or where the economic value of farmland was most closely aligned with the market value. So the fact that we've probably are going to see a bit of a slowdown in crop receipts, yet that we see farmland values going up, is not so much of an issue for Saskatchewan, given of the starting point at the beginning of 2016. But that's certainly something to monitor moving forward into 2017, as what kind of crop receipts are we going to witness throughout the year based on pricing as well as the actual production, the 2017 crop, and still compare that to the market value that we have in the marketplace. But I would say that overall in Saskatchewan, we have one of the provinces across the country that has economic value of land still very closely tied to the market value that we recorded.
What does FCC observe happening with land rental arrangements and rates across the prairies?
Well, we don't have a large database when it comes to rental rates. The one thing about cash rents is that they're notoriously slow to adjust. I say they're sticky on the downside, and it takes successive years of some kind of softness or weakness in the farm economy before we see cash rents actually come down. And in this case, if you look at 2017, the expectation is that crop receipts on average should be up maybe nearly 2% off the 2016 year. So maybe not as high as the record year we had in 2015, but nevertheless, profit margins, if you look at futures markets right now, making assumptions about a Canadian dollar that stays around 75 cents, the demand for Canadian agricultural commodities remaining strong. All of these assumptions lead us to believe that profit margins are going to be positive for producers, and I expect that cash rents are actually going to be fairly stable in 2016 and 2017.
Well, thank you again for your insights, Dr. Gervais.
It's always a pleasure.
We'll return after a short commercial break.